This episode is brought to you by the Solo to Group Practice webinar. It's a free webinar that you can find at practiceoftherapy.com/group, and also brought to you by TherapyNotes, therapynotes.com. This is the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, helping you to navigate your private practice journey. This is session number 185 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Hello, folks. I'm Gordon Brewer. Glad you've joined me. Hope you're having a good summer and start to the month of July. It's hard to believe that we're already done with June. It just went by so fast. Boy, it's been a hot summer here, especially in the United States. I know just a lot of folks have been struggling with the heat, and same for here in East Tennessee. It's been pretty hot here lately. But anyway, glad you joined me for the podcast. I'm looking forward to you hearing from my guest today, Jamey Schrier. And Jamey is a physical therapist, and I think this is one of the first times I've had somebody from other professions on the podcast. But really, if you think about a lot of the allied health professions, there are so many similarities, especially in the way that we run the business side of things. And so I'm really looking forward to you hearing from Jamey. He's quite the expert in just really thinking about your purpose of your business, and also just thinking about maybe ways to outsource and not burn the candle at both ends so much. So looking forward to you hearing from Jamey. Before I get to Jamey, though, one of the things I'd like to invite you to do, and I haven't done this in a little while on the podcast, but I'd like to invite you to go over and check out the cool resources page on Practice of Therapy. I'm constantly updating that, but I've got a lot of great resources on there. And here's a hint. I'm going to be doing an episode in the future where I talk about which resources and which tools I use in my own practice. You know, the main one being TherapyNotes, which is also a sponsor to this podcast. More on them here in a minute. But the other one is Google Workspace. And I've got a course out there called Google Workspace for Therapists. And if you'll just go to the cool resources page, go to practiceoftherapy.com/cool resources, or just go to practiceoftherapy.com and click the cool resources button right there at the top. That'll get you to the page to all the different resources that I recommend for therapists in private practice. But the Google Workspace for Therapists course is available, and you can find it on that page as well to find out more about that. And so anyway, one of the things, as I mentioned, is I've got an upcoming episode planned of just talking about the different tools that I use in my practice. So anyway, just want to point that out to you so you can kind of look at the list and see what might be of use to you there. And also, before we get to Jamey, I'd like to invite you to go over and check out TherapyNotes. And if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes, you can find out more about their services. They are the leading electronic health record system for private practice owners in the mental health field. They're who I use in my practice, and absolutely couldn't work without them at this point. They have a patient portal that is second to none. They also you're able to, through that platform, file your insurance claims electronically for those of you that are insurance-based in your practice. Also, people can look at your schedule and figure out scheduling through that portal. It really makes for a complete paperless office. And the other thing, too, is that there is they have telehealth available through their portal. And so you've got really a lot there packed into one particular resource. So be sure and check them out. practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. And be sure and use the promo code Gordon, just GORDON, and you can get 2 months of their services for free. So without further ado, I'd love for you to listen to my conversation with Jamey Schrier, and we're going to be talking about outsourcing and also just the importance of where to spend your time. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm so glad to have with me today Jamey Schrier. And what's interesting about Jamey is he's in a similar profession, but different. He's a physical therapist. And Jamey, welcome.
Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate you having me here.
Yes, I'm excited for our conversation. I know just before we started recording, we were just talking about some of your philosophies and that sort of thing. And I think that's going to be really interesting to people. But as I start with everyone, why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed?
Yeah, I mean, like most people in this profession, I wanted to help people. I wanted to help others. And I chose the path of physical therapy to do that. I just love the aspects of physical therapy. And I always knew I was going to go into business one day. And finally, after a few years of working for others, I said, let's do this. So I mustered up enough courage and a few nickels to open up my own business. And it was fantastic. It was everything I thought it would be. And then a few years later, I just noticed a little bit of angst. I just noticed I wasn't sleeping as well. I noticed some of the arguments that I had with my wife, where it was around the business, around the money and the pressure of business, as we all know. And things just started to go down a path that I didn't really sign up for. I didn't sign up for that part of it. And it really started when I started hiring people. Working for yourself, I mean, that's, it's just you, right? And maybe a part-time person. But when you start hiring people, I didn't know how to hire. I didn't know how to train. I didn't know how to develop systems and have staff meetings. And things just got so bad that I just paused for a second. I said, well, what am I doing this for? And I realized that I'm working more, not less, right? When you hire people, I think you're supposed to work less and have better life. No, I was working more hours. I was working 60 hours a week. Wasn't hanging and staying with the people that I love. I was at work all the time. And even when I was home, I was mentally at work.
Right.
So, and then a freak thing happened. I had a fire, burned down my entire practice. It was at the time unfortunate, but what I realized, Gordon, it was a wake-up call because I wasn't going in the direction I wanted to. I like most people, I'm pretty intelligent, I like to think, and I have a pretty healthy ego. And what that didn't have me do is get help. I never got help. I thought I could figure out on my own. Thought I could just work harder. And so I just made the decision that I'm going to learn actually how to build a business in this allied health world. I know it can be done. So I spent the next 9 years investing a lot of money, of my own money, over $300,000. And I spent countless hours trying to implement the things that grow a business, failed most of the time, but then learned some things of how to do it. And 9 years later, January of 2013, I created a business that allowed me to take 137 days off in a year. I mean, I actually counted. My business grew, which was wild. Like, how do you take time off and your business grows? But I learned to actually work smarter. Not just talk about it, but do it. And then I started sharing my story with people and of how to do it. And people started reaching out. And that's how I got into this, in this coaching and business training type of world and teaching other people how to actually create a business of how you see it. It's not a preconceived, like, this is the way you do it. It's what do you want? And then we help and provide the principles and strategies of how to get what you want.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And it absolutely follows a theme that my listeners hear from me all the time is you got to start with why. Just being able to figure out, okay, you're going into private practice. You've got this business, this practice. What for? Yeah. And so you got to absolutely start with that. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering, what were some of when you started kind of breaking this down and looking at it, what were some of the main kind of roadblocks that you noticed or mistakes that you were making before your fire, which is tragic? I can't imagine, how that would affect, anyone, but,
Right.
yeah.
When they're throwing all your equipment and even your plaques on the wall that you just bought, they're throwing them into a dumpster.
Right.
It definitely weighs on you, but
Right.
but yeah, it makes you rethink things. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, to your point, one of the things I think is important for people to understand is it shouldn't take a fire. It shouldn't take something tragic to change how we're doing things, to accept that, you know what, I don't know it all. And I think that's the most important thing. You talked about Simon Sinek, who kind of coined this start with why.
Mm-hmm.
But I 100% agree with you. There needs to be, why are we doing this? The world doesn't need another physical therapy place. The world doesn't need another mental health specialist. We'll survive. So the real question is, why you? Why are you doing this? Because part of that why, but part of establishing your story of how you came to be and where you're going, the vision, which is where everyone has to start. It's not just doing it to get a vision statement. I don't really care about vision statements, but I do care about what this is about for you. And the reason why that's important, I think people fail to see this, I know I did, is when you have that, you're able to attract people to you, not just clients, but it's used to hire people. Because the good people out there, as I'm sure you know, look, jobs are jobs. Anyone can have a job. But really being a part of something, really having a sense of purpose that you're making a difference, that's what people ultimately want. And when you're able to provide that, because you've done some of the deep work, as Cal Newport says, the deep work of thinking about, what does this mean to you? Why are you doing this? What is your place about? You're able to connect with people more than just salary, hours, the type of clientele. It's a deeper thing. That's where everyone must start, because that's what's uniquely you and what separates you from anybody else.
Right. Yeah, it's you're exactly right. And I think, to add to that, I think maybe, and I'd be curious with your process with this, Jamey, how you kind of guide people through this. But I think for me, one of the things was really beginning to look at what was the lifestyle I wanted to live. I mean, the big picture kind of lifestyle. I've got my profession, I've got my family, I've got things I'm involved in the community, and how these things all fit together. So yeah, so maybe give us a thumbnail sketch of the process you use with people and helping them kind of discover these things.
Well, like anything else in our profession, we learned a framework, right? I mean, when you're working with a client, with a patient, you're following a framework. Business has a framework. Every successful business out there, whether it's large or small, follows a very consistent framework. So when we talk about, well, the foundation of your business is what we're talking about. Why the business for you? Why did you choose this profession? Why did you choose opening up your own practice? Why are you doing this? And ultimately, it's going to relate to really what you're about, which then dovetail to your point, dovetail into, so your business is supposed to provide you a better life. Your life is not designed to do business. Right. We don't all go into this and say, okay, I'm gonna spend everything that I do, all my time, all my energy, all my focus for my business. Yes, it takes effort and work to develop your business, but your business is supposed to provide the lifestyle. So the question is, what is the lifestyle you want? Right? Money's not a bad thing. We need money to live. We need money to do things. The question is, do you want to spend more time with your family, with your kids, with your neighbors? Do you want to travel more? what is that number? We're in the helping profession. A lot of times we have difficulty being okay and not feeling guilty around making money. Making money is not a bad thing. It's okay to make money. Making money, the way I look at it, because I've had trouble with this idea around sales and money, making money is a reflection of how many people you're helping. So if you're making money and, of course, doing it your way, that's a good thing. Now, what you do with the money is up to you. So you got to choose what that lifestyle is, because ultimately, when things get rough, you need to really rely on what are you doing this for? And you have to rely on that strong, sense of, I'm doing this because for me, it was, I'm working 65 hours a week. I'm having fights with my wife. I'm not seeing my kids. This is why I went into my own business, so I would have the time. Right. So that very strong desire to have that kind of lifestyle was critical. And that's where everyone starts.
Right. And I think, and to your point, I think one of the things that people can learn is, like you said earlier, to learn how to work smarter instead of harder.
But what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
That's a good point. And part of it is like you said, is really looking at, okay, what's the flow of things throughout your day in and day out of your business, and being able to really think, okay, how much of this does it need me for, as opposed to maybe outsourcing to somebody else, or somebody else kind of taking over. So you want to say more about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started making the decision to invest in myself, to invest in my own development as a business owner, not as a clinician, not as a therapist, but as a business owner, first of all, I had to come to the realization that I was a business owner. As scary as that might sound, the word entrepreneur, well, I guess I am an entrepreneur, because my definition is you're relying solely on your own work to provide for yourself, to provide financially for yourself. That's an entrepreneur. So we have to understand that, we have to embrace that and not shy away. So one of the things that I did on this journey is to realize that I don't mind working hard, but I want to make sure there's an end game to it. So I had a mentor when I started investing and learning, and most of the training I had was outside of my field. So that's why I think I can relate to a lot of different types of business owners, because principles are principles. And one of the things he told me was, Jamey, it's not about you. You can't go to every problem with, how can I solve it? And I did. I was always like, how can I? He goes, the key is to find a who can help you. And when I learned that, I was like, that's interesting, because there's a lot of talented people out there. And I don't like bookkeeping. I'm not very good at bookkeeping. I round to the nearest 1,000, not good for a bookkeeper. when you're like, that's close enough. So one of the first things that I delegated was a who in bookkeeping. And this bookkeeper came and brought not just the services that she did, but she brought her like almost like mentoring me in how this should be done. So I started learning from the bookkeeper, and I started to realize, now I have more time. I'm less stressed. I'm working smarter, more efficient. So then I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe this is the key. Maybe I just go around and look at all the things that I don't particularly like to do, or that I'm not really good at doing. And that's what I did. I said, well, I don't particularly want to sit there and answer the phones all the time. So how about I hire someone? And then how about I actually let her do her job? Because, sometimes I still jumped in there and answered the phones and said, excuse me, let me schedule this patient. And then I finally said, would it be okay if I just let you do your job? She goes, that would be fantastic. So then I started looking at even treating. I love to treat. I'm good at treating, but you know what? There's other people out there that love to treat as well. And what if I use my time instead to mentor them and to help create amazing professionals? So then I started hiring people. Well, of course, I wasn't sure how to hire people. So I started learning how to hire. Then I had people help me hire. So this whole notion of working smarter, not harder, really comes first with finding someone that can help you, that you can delegate, which means you have to be okay with letting go.
Right.
And letting go and realizing that that is a powerful thing.
Right. Right.
Is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And I use it till today in this business, looking at how can I find my who to help me with a particular area of my business. And then I spend my time, believe it or not, Gordon, focusing on what I love to do, which is this.
Right. Right.
This is what I love to do. I want to talk, I want to share, and I want to have other great people who does all the administrative stuff of the business, some of the details of the technology and stuff. And I think that's really one of the key components where I think people go off the rails a little bit, is they try to do too much, which then becomes overwhelming and frustrating. And you start eating up time. And time is the only non-renewable, non-replenishable resource we all have. So how we use our time is critical.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm just sitting here thinking, how much our lives are parallel, because that was the same experience I had until I learned to really, as you said, let go of some of the things that I felt like, I've got to be the person to do this. I've got to be the one to do this. It was just exhausting, and you do start just piling on more and more, and it gets unmanageable and all of that. And so I think that's Jamey, it's a really good point. And I want our listeners to kind of pay attention to that. The two most, as you said, the two most valuable things that we have as any profession is our knowledge and our time. And that's our product. That's what we sell to people, even though people don't like the word sales, but that's what you're doing. And so being able to free yourself up to where you can do those things, give your time and your expertise to things. And your expertise might be something even outside the field, like, again, doing this kind of thing, doing any number of things that really energize you and that you have your passion for. Yeah.
Well, this is where we get into the whole idea of marketing. So many people say, well, I need more patience. And I'm like, we all sell the same thing. We sell expertise. We sell a solution to a problem. It doesn't mean you have to be the one that does it all. And here's the interesting part. We're not stupid. We couldn't have gotten in school and graduated with a degree if we got C's. So let's just all agree that we haven't failed a lot in the academic world. We haven't. So we were taught, because you learn mostly by your failures, by your misfortunes, you learn more than by your successes. Well, we didn't have a lot of those failures in school. But here's like the opposite. When you go into business is all about testing. Business is about trying something, learning from the mistake, and changing it, right? And improving it. So when you are in this world of not experiencing that a lot, especially in school and stuff, it can be difficult letting go of what worked. See, what worked for you was, I'll just study harder. I'll study harder and harder and harder, and I'll get an A. And then the teacher, you earn an A. Well, in business, that doesn't work. You putting more and more hours just eats up time, doesn't necessarily get you better results. And it's killing the thing that you're doing this for, which is to have a great life. So we need to change our operating system. Right now, what is there, 14.5 in the iOS of Apple? We are like on 3. Our operating system needs to be upgraded. And we have to let go some of the operating habits that we have trained ourselves in. We have to let go and start to improve those habits. And one of the things, and if people walk away with one thing on this, one of the things is it's okay to let go. It does not make you weak. It makes you strong. If you have a staff, your staff will appreciate that. Your referral sources will be okay with it. Your clients will be okay with it, because as a business owner, you have an influence and a role that no one else in your business has. And we have to embrace that role. That means learning how to actually be the leader, because most of us don't look at ourselves like that. I never looked at myself. I just said, what are you? Oh, I'm a physical therapist. I never looked at myself as, what are you? I'm an entrepreneur. I own a physical therapy company. Like, just even to say that was weird. But we have to believe that's what it is. And we have to learn how to operate in that mode and not assume just because we're smart, we've had that training. And when you open yourself up to, there are tons of people that can help you. We can't do it on our own. We shouldn't do it on our own. There's no glory in trying to do it on their own. So it's finding the who to help you in all these aspects of it, whether it's putting in systems, whether it's doing marketing, whether it's putting in the foundation of your business, the financials of your business. We all have these same aspects of business. You don't strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. We are strong people. We don't want to tear ourselves down because we feel this guilt or shame of being successful or even wanting to be successful. Just reframe it. You're just helping more people. You're making a difference in more people's lives, but that starts with elevating you. So upgrade that iOS system of you.
Yeah, I love that. And it's again, you're speaking to just really taking a close look at your mindset. And, bootstrapping a business is maybe good in the first little bit of the beginning of it. But if you do that too long, it will just, it will eat everything away.
Required. It's required. The first year, 2 years, you got to work your butt off.
Right.
You have to. But eventually the whole point is you put in systems, you hire good people, and you don't have to kill yourself. But what I see in lots of professions and small businesses is it never ends. And then it becomes accepted. And there is the problem. You start to accept it's the way it is. It isn't the way it is. It's the way you choose it to be. And that's really huge, right? We get to choose how this all works out. There's not a lack of people that need what you do. Right. There's not a lack of people that you can hire to help you. The key is really looking in the mirror and asking yourself, well, what is it that you want? And then start to search, how can I do this? Who can help me do this? Not how can I do it all? And I think that's universal in any type of business, but especially in, as you and I were talking, the smart professions. Right. The lawyers and the doctors and the mental health therapists and the physical therapists and the occupational. We're smart people because of our training. Well, we can use that intelligence to learn actually how to build a business that delivers phenomenal services to our community.
Right. Yeah. Love this. Yeah. So, Jamey, I want to be respectful of your time. And I know we could probably talk about this for hours, but tell folks a little bit more about your resources and how they can get in touch with you and that sort of thing.
Sure. So I have a company. After I started teaching other people business, I was like, I really like this. So I made a pivot. I pivoted from being a practice owner. I had a few private practices in Maryland, and I pivoted to teaching other people how to do this. And it was the greatest thing in my life. So I created a company called Practice Freedom U, the letter U, .com. And what we do is we help private practice owners not just build and grow their business, but do it to deliver the type of lifestyle that they want. Right. So if that's something that you are interested in, we have different programs and things, and I'd be happy to have a conversation. I don't do sales. I don't do all that stuff. I'm really just looking for people that they have a vision. There's something that they want, and they're looking for guidance and help. So if that's you, then you go to practicefreedomu.com/discovery. We can have a conversation. I did write a book called The Practice Freedom Method, which was exactly how I built my business from working 60 some hours a week and making basically no money,
Mm-hmm.
to taking a lot of time off and making a great living and hiring an amazing team. So my book, The Practice Freedom Method, you can get a downloadable version on my website for nothing, or you can go to Amazon and purchase it for like $14.95 or something like that.
Awesome.
So those are two resources. And of course, you can follow me in social media and just look me up if you like what I'm saying and you want to kind of just be a fly on the wall and just hear more about it.
Awesome.
Another way
awesome.
too.
Yes. And we'll be sure and have links to all of this in the show notes and show summary so you can access it easily. So, well, Jamey, thank you so much for being on this episode. And I'm hoping that we'll get to have more conversations in the future, because I think I love your mindset around all of this. And it really resonates for me of just thinking, about the one thing that I will say is that I think people hear from me is know your why, but then figuring out who will help you with it, I think is a huge message for us to take home.
Absolutely. Well, Gordon, I appreciate you having me on, and I love the fact we can cross the boundaries of professions, because when it comes down to it, we all have our unique way to help people, but we have the common theme of helping people. And that means creating a business that helps a lot of people, starting with us.
All right.
We got to take care of us.
That's awesome. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jamey Schrier, and I'm grateful to him for being on the podcast. Just a lot of wisdom there, and I think it's really, the whole theme of this particular episode just really resonated for me, because I think one of the things that I have realized more and more the more I do this is just the importance of really spending my time on the things that matter most. And I think we can bog ourselves down with just doing a lot of busy work and with of just really trying to look busy, or thinking that we're getting ahead by working harder and by putting in more hours and that sort of thing. And that a lot of times it's just not the case. So again, thanks to Jamey for being on the podcast, and be sure and check out his stuff. And again, there are links down below that you can get easy access to his Freedom U materials. And so check them out. So that wraps up this particular episode. Be sure and check out the Google Workspace for Therapists course. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to the cool resources page at practiceoftherapy.com. And also be sure and check out our sponsor for the podcast, TherapyNotes, therapynotes.com. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers in private practice. They're who I use in my practice, and they're really second to none. So you can check them out at practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. And if you will use the promo code Gordon, just GORDON, you can get 2 months of their services for free. So thanks again, folks, for joining me for the podcast. Do take time to subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it, and also leave us a review. I love getting honest feedback about the podcast. And so look forward to you joining me for some future episodes. We've got a lot of great guests coming up. Take care, folks. Been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive the free private practice startup guide at practiceoftherapy.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, guests, or producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. If you need a professional, you should find the right person for that.